Welcome, everybody. I'm calling this meeting of the Zoning and Planning Board of Appeals.
Recording in progress.
Roll call. Noel here. Vice Chair Barb Dorf is excused. Stephen here? Okay. Oh, sorry. Corey?
Sorry, I'm good. Here.
Joshua?
Here.
And Benjamin?
Not here just yet.
Okay. All right, next on the agenda, approval of the agenda for the Monday, April 15th meeting.
So moved.
Seconded.
So, how about this? Say
my name.
Say your name and the motion, and then say your name and the second.
Josh Cook, moved.
Corey Bogenschutz, second.
Okay. There's a motion from Josh, second from Corey. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Agenda approved. Approval of the minutes from the March 18th, 2024 meeting.
Josh Cook, so moved.
Seconded.
Was that Stephen?
Yes.
Got a motion from Josh.
That was better.
Yeah, that's better.
Motion from Josh, second from Stephen, to approve the minutes of the March 18th, 2024 meeting. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right, now we are on to regular business. And I have a statement I'd like to read prior to the beginning of that. The Zoning and Planning Board of Appeals hears and acts on appeals for variances from city zoning code requirements. The members of the board are appointed, and the board acts as a quasi-judicial body during these appeals, which means that appeals are presented like a case is presented in court, and the board acts as the judge and determines whether to grant the appeal by majority vote. For each item, we will hear from the appellant and staff, as well as any additional witnesses where appropriate. If you are the appellant for an item, I'll pronounce it two different ways so that I get it right at least once. For an item on tonight's agenda, please come and take a seat at the table when your item is called. And first up is Appeal 24-05, consideration with possible action on a variance request submitted by Steve and Cheryl Malcor, applicant and property owners, requesting to exceed side yard setback standards for an attached garage at 210 Bedford Road. This is in Aldermanic District Number 2. Folks on the board, it's our goal here at the Board of Appeals to provide and conduct a hearing that is fair in form, appearance, and substance. To ensure that this hearing satisfies these goals, I'd like to have each of you please confirm the following for this appeal by stating, I confirm. I do not have a conflict of interest in this matter.
Josh Cook, I confirm.
I don't know if we need to say your name at this stage, which is everybody do say it, and if you're muted, turn your mic on so that we can hear you say I confirm. And I confirm. I have not received any communications from any person or party about this matter.
I confirm.
I confirm.
I confirm.
Great. Okay, so we're on this item, and what we do is we hear from our staff first, and then we'll hear from you. So John is our staff here. John, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
Great. Okay, tell us about this request.
So we happened to see this last month. This is 2405. This item was referred back to be held with further information. We have received further information from the applicant. Here's what is at play here. 34-554, table 44-2, within an RR district. Building setback requirements for a 1.5 story or more primary structure is a minimum of 8 feet from the side yard. Requirement is dropped down to 6 feet if it happened to be just a single one-story structure, but this house does have the 1.5 stories on it. The applicant is seeking to create an attached garage structure which is 5 feet from the property line. So if you look last time, this is a parcel itself. It's down a rural road on the east side on Bedford. This is the parcel, neighboring properties to the north where they're looking to put in that addition is on their existing garage, removing the existing garage, putting up a new one that's attached to the house. This is what the property looks like. Now I want to note one thing that wasn't brought up last time. So this garage door here is actually the front of the house. Abnormal, that's the front door to the house. Going back in time, this is a very old farmhouse. It used to be, let's go back over here, the road that's out this way, that was the front, not this side road that leads to it. Just a giant farm field in front of the house. And nowadays, over the past few decades, the garage was attached to it. And so when speaking with our building inspection staff, while it is abnormal to have a garage door act as a front door, it's allowed in this case because of the setup of the house itself. The kitchen is, for instance, where this window is at. So doorway comes in through the garage. These are some more photos of, as far as what the area looks like currently. And this is the addition that they're trying to make to the house, where the addition would be, rather than being at 8 feet like it is right now, it would get within 5 feet of the property line. And this is how it looks like overall on the grand scale of the parcel itself. This is a view down the property line. You can see the neighbors, they have a detached garage that's up along the property line itself. You'll note in the packet there was a letter of support that came from the neighbors directly next door in support of this idea. This is some examples around the neighborhood of other places that happen to have 2 to 3 stall garages. It's in some cases beyond come for like 4 or 5 or 6 garages if you count the attached stalls and detached stalls on properties. This property happens to be the normal one that happens to have just one garage stall in the context of the neighborhood. This is across the street where you'll happen to see a 3-stall attached and then another 3-stall detached across as well. That didn't show up there. What you have noted in your packet is they received some information from their contractor regarding the space at the house itself, and there are some additional photos that were taken from the garage itself. So one of the questions that was asked is going back to the look here of the house itself. This gap that exists back here, why couldn't you take that? So the contractor addressed some reasons why they believe there was a need to not film that gap. I did go to the house and take some photos that were attached into your packet. So what's happening here is there's an entryway with a stoop that comes down this way. There has to be enough room for a door to open, ingress, egress. For landing, that has to be 36 inches. That was noted here in that the information that was provided by the applicant itself with some additional information as to where that door can swing. So there has to be room back over here for the door in the landing, so that from the house itself, there's a stoop and there's a few stairs that come down, and there has to be 36 inches of width here for the landing of the door. So for all intent and purpose, the door has to be placed right there. There has to be a door in that spot. And then you place the garage door off to the north and back towards the property line in order for that to work to meet the building code and have sufficient space for ingress egress with the door. So what has been added to the overall context of this has been the photos from inside the garage, house, and outside of the roof lines, as well as written documentation from the property owners, as well as a letter of support from the neighbors and the Dorn Contracting, who's doing the roofing in the garage on the site.
But no other changes to the proposal?
No
as
other
requested?
changes, yeah. More details as to why they felt it was necessary to have this be at 5 feet rather than going back to 8 feet.
Great. All right, Steve and Cheryl, before I have you add any additional information, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth?
Yes.
Great. Anything to add for us from last time in terms of the
I don't know,
conversation?
do you see all this other stuff I put down? I made a whole new, you saw all that?
Yeah.
That's basically kind of it. So what I can add, besides, we're going from well, you can't see it on that picture, but that entrance door in the garage was a 32, I was gonna go to the 36, but I did move that closer to the house, trying to get
As close as you can.
As close as I can and still have a landing spot there to go up the stairs and get into the house. So everything got moved that way a little bit. Didn't help a whole lot, but it helped a little. I'm still at that 3-foot area I'm trying to get to.
Mhm.
You know, because you gotta have a 3-foot landing area above the steps and the door, and kind of codes are there. They'd rather have it bigger, but I'm still going, you know, I'm keeping it to a minimum.
Right. And what I'm
Yeah.
showing here right now, folks, just some dates, these are the photos that were included in the packet, so as far as what the existing garage looks like.
Not a joke in here now. But yeah, there's that landing,
Mhm.
and we can't, when we go to bring the door any over more, we can't because the steps to go to the basement are right inside that door. So we can't move it on that picture to the right at all. That breezeway kind of part, we can only bring it up, bring that roof up so high, because the contractor does not want to touch.
The existing roof.
Yeah. So we can't make it really too much bigger, put a landing and steps going the other direction.
Well, we don't want to lose that window up in the upper room.
Right in the dormer.
Right,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you go into that existing roof line and then we no longer have a bedroom up there.
Right.
Yeah, it makes it a real mess up there. He doesn't want to touch any of that up there. So we're kind of limited on how high we can go, because that's only like a, I think it's a 212 pitch on that breezeway kind of right now. And he suggested 412, so it goes up quite a bit real quick. So it can't get made too much bigger. I think I moved that landing inside, or that landing to get into the house is 51 inches now. I moved that door over. I think I got it down to 40, 42 inches, somewhere right in that area. So I'm making that landing actually smaller.
Yeah, the smallest of this landing itself can be here is 36 inches long. And then the landing over in this area, the door itself, also 36 inches in that area.
And I don't want to, you know, right now it's basically like that way you open the door. Stairs are right there. And where that freezer is, that wall's been cut down from, that was 5 feet, now it's 3 feet. The other side of the garage, on the drawing, it's, you got the landing, that 36-inch door, you got a 3-foot, the new part would be. You got 3-foot where between that service door and the garage door, and you got the garage door, and then there's basically 3 feet there. And that's it. Do you got that drawing with the
Yeah.
2 pictures? I kind of drew them so they're stacked. You got that other one with the front views that I did?
Not in the slides here, but I'll pick it up for you.
Looks like in the packet is the page before the
That one.
outline.
There's the old and the new. And I took this door from where it was, I moved it that way a little bit to shorten this up. And I'm still fighting trying to get that. Getting that 3-foot would be perfect. There's the one. Sideways, but no, there we go. Originally, we were thinking about 5 feet and putting 2 doors in instead of 1, but I thought, no, 5 feet's pushing it a lot. So, going for 3. Got it?
Well, the main thing is that is the entrance to our house, that door right there. So that's the key And you have to remember, we need to make sure like an emergency vehicle can get there, because you guys talked about us trying to move the door over to the other side. You know, and that's not
Really feasible?
a good thing. You know, that is our front door. And no longer can we have a car parked in front of there either, where we currently have, you know, a car parked there.
Yeah, I just saw by the one picture where my car was parked in front of that door, which is now illegal. Well, on a new house, it'd be illegal. I'm kind of grandfather.
I mean, and we did talk to the owner of the 150 Bedford, and he is okay with us going over a little bit further.
Who's 150 Bedford? Is that the one directly next door to you or across the street?
That's-
That is the one next to us.
Okay.
That is his property.
He
I
told
mean,
me,
his property.
go as far as you want. I said, no, 3 feet should be enough. He says he'll never build over there. The way the lot is, it's not for building anything over there.
All right, any questions for the petitioners?
Yes, just one question. That picture right there, go back one. Property line, is that,
Property line is
Are your
basically
trees
those
the property
line, that line of trees.
okay.
That basically has got a corner almost on. That's basically, and that lilac bush is right on the edge too.
Okay.
You see in the front right there. I think right about where his pointer was is where the property line was.
Got it.
John, would we have a setback issue with the driveway itself if they're going to match the opening on the proposed garage?
No, we would not. The driveway itself should be leading to the garage door itself, and so leading to the garage door could be okay.
And just one more time, so the side yard setback requirement is, and they're proposing to be how close to it?
Side yard setback for a building that is 1.5 stories or greater is 8 feet. They're requesting to be 5 feet
Okay.
from the property line. They're currently at 8 feet from the property line.
All right, are there any other questions for staff or the petitioner? All right, I'm seeing head shaking. Thank you, sit tight. We're going to talk amongst ourselves now and make a decision here.
Mr. Baker?
Well, feel free to stay here. We might actually have another question or discussion.
I'll stay here then.
But please, and thank you.
What I heard today, I'll take the first crack at it. Heard today that was different from when we were here last time is a little bit more information about that being the front door. And I think the nature of the house and the situation on the lot it brings me a little bit more comfortable into the exceptional circumstances piece. Because none of the other photographs that we saw, do any of the other neighboring neighborhood lots have that sort of wonky service door, front door layout. So I think that swayed me on the exceptional circumstances piece. I don't think that the requested variance is inconsistent with the spirit of the ordinance. These are large enough lots. I don't think that this particular request is so significant it's changing the character of the neighborhood or things along those lines. Preservation of property rights. I have some challenge getting there. I think I can get there with a little bit of help. I think that I still think there are other ways to accomplish a two-stall garage within the ordinance. You can have the front to back garage. So I think that's the area where I'm.
Can I say something about that?
Sure.
The front to back part, the problem with the front to back, I looked at that, thought about that, we talked about that, is we're constantly gonna be moving cars to do that, because we can't get out the back. We can only get out one way. So if I leave earlier, but I get home earlier, I can either park on a garage or park on a road or something like that until she gets home so I can pull in. You know, or I pull in and then I gotta move her car for me to get out and then put her car back in. It just doesn't seem like a real good idea to me.
I don't disagree, it's inconvenient, I think it's.
Very inconvenient.
It's possible.
Yeah.
That's the one I'm struggling most with. I think I can get there on,
So if we do go back to back, then once we look out our bedroom window, we're staring at a garage.
And so basically our neighbors.
And so are our neighbors then. Because of where the house is, that back, I don't think we took any pictures from the back. Yes, you did, where that little shed is in between the things. Right there is our bedroom. So the front of the house has the kitchen, and then this is our bedroom. So when you look out our window, then we're gonna be staring at basically staring out the garage when you look to the right.
and I understand that. I'm still struggling with that one.
So, Josh, if I may, along those lines, you know, when I look at the rights of the other neighbors in that area, none of them have been forced into doing that because of the way it's done here. I mean, I don't think preservation is, I think preservation of property rights is something that at least I could get behind, because everyone else is able to enjoy the property without having to put in materials with their car in that area. You know, this is a fundamental function of the board, because we're, you know, it's an unusual property due to its age and how the area was developed. I think in this particular case, in order for them to enjoy that particular property and maintain their rights to do what they need to do on that property, I think that this does maintain it. I don't think we're stretching much for that, especially considering that there is no real detriment, nor is there you know, any kind of you know, like you said about the first condition. There's not a lot of they're not really violating the spirit or the intent of the code. You know, we're kind of here to deal with these odd shaped properties and odd situations. And I think in this case, at least in my mind, it you know, we can fulfill that.
I agree with Stephen. I mean, it just makes sense. I mean, to go back to back with the garage, I mean, just in the shape of the concept of the house, it doesn't make sense.
So if I may, I'm hearing arguments from board members that say that this variance would not be inconsistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the RR district, that either because of the age or just the decisions that have been made in the past in terms of placing the house on this lot, that we've created they've created an exceptional or unusual circumstance with regard to this, and then by putting the garage attached initially to the front door of, you know, an old farmhouse, that's you know, strange enough to warrant kind of thinking about it as an exceptional circumstance. Other people have multi-car garages in the neighborhood. We should allow that under preservation of property rights. We know from seeing the letter from the neighbor and from the fact that this is really just impacting this one piece of property, that there doesn't seem to be any detriment to the neighborhood or the community as a whole. And that, you know, this isn't necessarily a self-imposed or economic grounds for this hardship, and that complying is really about the way this house has evolved over the many years since it was built, and its position on the lot. And I think, you know, saying, you know, build a detached two-car garage somewhere else on the massive expanse of this parcel is certainly an easy argument, or doing the too deep garage is also a completely valid alternative. But it all would create, you know, a hike then from the garage on the other side of the house back around to your front door, you know, or other things.
The other side of the house has got our holding tanks. We can't put nothing.
Yeah, and you can't put anything right there, but you'd have to do it again somewhere else.
Yeah,
and then have
the whole house to
yeah,
get to a
and
garage.
have a hike again to get back to the house from the detached garage. So I think all of those things together kind of constitute addressing, the criteria that we've got for granting a variance. So I'd be happy to entertain a motion from the board on that.
I said I could be convinced, and I am. This is Josh. I'll move to approve the variance for all of the reasons previously stated.
Is there a
Steve
second?
Griffin, I will second that motion.
Okay, we've got a motion by Josh and a second by Stephen to approve the variance as requested. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Now what happens?
Now you work with the city to get the garage permitted and built in the way it's supposed to be done. So,
Okay. All right.
Okay, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for giving us the time to chew on this and coming back with
Well,
some
I'm glad that
information.
we did this because that gave me more things to look at, like, he never mentioned, when he said the front door, that was the front door. I didn't mention that the last time.
Yeah, as we were driving home, we're like, oh, we didn't even say that is our front door.
Well, that was news for me. Thank you.
That is our front door. Our front door and our back door.
Back door, yeah. Thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
take care. Next up, Appeal 24-09, consideration with possible action on a variance request from Christine Allen, applicant and property owner, requesting to exceed side yard setback standards for a driveway at 325 14th Avenue. This is in Aldermanic District Number 9. So please, join us at the table here, and then we'll begin, as we did in the last item, with a staff presentation, and then we'll get to you. John, for this item, do you swear? Oh, yeah, sure. Thank you. It is, this is the conflict thing again. I want to hear from you that you can confirm the statement, members of the board. I do not have a conflict of interest in this matter.
I concur.
I confirm.
For
All right, and I have not received any communication from any person or party about this matter. I confirm.
I concur.
I confirm.
Great, thank you. Thanks. John, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
All right, please tell us about this request.
So the issues here is at play is at 44-1746 sub 2 sub A on lots with less than 60 feet of lot with frontage. Driveways shall be set back a minimum of 1 foot from the side yard lot line. On lots where the available side yard prohibits the ability to create or maintain 8 foot width and required setback as listed below, the setback may be administratively reduced or eliminated. So if there's less than 8 feet, this is where this position can say it's fine, be right up to the property line itself. I don't know why these are not showing up. Not good. Okay. Bear with me a moment. I will stop the share and just go to the files together. All right, as this pops up, this is your property here, 325 14th Avenue. What's at play here is this driveway that comes off and is adjacent to the property line itself. This is what the property looks like today, so we're going to see a few things here that we'll zoom into. What has happened over the course of the past 5 quarters or so since early 2023 was there was a approved request to do some foundation work for the property itself to deal with some foundational issues. With that, the contractors need to tear up a part of the driveway itself. So you can see the existing driveway that's been here that goes essentially right to the property line itself, 0 feet off the property. There's a spot back here, which you might be able to see better through. There we go. That was replaced. Less than 500 square feet. This chunk was replaced and put back into alignment with the existing property, the existing driveway. Now, what's at play there is there wasn't a replacement of a site plan put out to replace a driveway. There just happened to be repairs for the foundation. And when the repairs were put back in on the property. The initial notice was to put this back to now where it had to be 1 foot from the property line that we're placing back in the driveway. And you're going to see that through some forms that were put back in April of 2023 or so, or I should say spring. I don't know the exact date, back in 2023. But the forms were placed to where they're a foot from the property line. Well, the form was taken out and it was still poured to go right to the property line itself. So when this was replaced, that section of the pavement had to be placed back into meeting the code to where it could be within a foot of the property line. Instead, it was poured to be placed back to how it has been for a driveway and placed back to right on the lot line itself at 0 feet. So the reality is there were some orders placed to say, take out this section here, that 1 foot new section, because there was a complaint that was placed in the property. That's why we're here today. The orders were placed on that, and the applicant's looking to have a variance to not replace and remove this section of concrete driveway that was placed back in. You can kind of see it here a little bit better with the driveway. You see the new area, you see the old existing area, so into the driveway near the actual house foundation itself that was removed. The repairs were done on the house. Concrete was placed back in. It was placed back to the property line itself. And within the code, that's not allowed.
Did you say at the top of the item here that this is, it could be an administrative approval?
So it can be. Now it can be if the space for the driveway is not sufficient. So if this driveway from the home itself back over to the property line was 8 feet or less, by all means, it would probably make sense to do an administrative approval of this. However, the driveway itself appears to be about 10.5 to 11 feet in width from the building back over to the property line. So it is wide enough that cars can go through. So with that in mind, that's why we're here today.
And we're only talking about that new section, not the 2 rectangles towards the street from the new section, correct?
Correct. So we're talking
No,
about
we're just, yeah,
so we're discussing this section here where you see that newer white, that replaced section. So the areas that were already existing back in time, those are still legal non-conforming because the entire driveway was not replaced. You're allowed to do repairs to your driveway or any sort of parking surface so long as it's less than 500 square feet per year. That is the case there. So there wasn't a need to replace the entire driveway and put it in the code. It is simply that when you repair this area, that new section of driveway has to then meet the code. Thus, there's this gap where you have the older part of the driveway, which is going to be right to the property line, a gap of 1 foot, and then as you go back this way, or it meets back up again to the existing concrete, that would not have to have any changes.
Do you know the depth in terms of the distance of the run of this new section of driveway?
about 40 feet.
So it's the
From
depth of the
back
house
of the
itself,
house.
which is about 40 feet or so. Yeah.
So just for this portion, just he gets to talk, and then
Oh,
we'll
I'm
come.
sorry.
No, that's okay, just clarifying the procedure, so you'll get to answer all of their questions once he's finished with his presentation. Thank you.
Overall, though, it's less than 500 square feet that was replaced. So you do not need to get the entire driveway into compliance. It is simply that area that was the replaced area that the code has a question with right now.
Questions for John?
Probably what amounts to a dumb question. So looking at the original picture, the one with the Honda in it, it looks like there was a gap between that slab, I don't know, maybe that's not the old section, I don't know. Well, the original slab, was that poured separately from the addition on the side?
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying?
I hear what you're saying there, and it would appear that way based off the apron, but because of looking back through different historical photos, it appears as though that was there. Staff is viewing this area that is on the property itself, where the driveway is right up on the property line, as being of a legal non-conforming status. So I think it's a fair point made here. You can tell by the old apron, that part was added on at some point, but we don't have any records of any sort of variance that happened, and it looks like it probably happened decades ago. And so we, as a staff, look back through at the latest 2004. If it happened before 2004 and nothing came of it, at that point it's still not conforming. We don't go searching back through time to see if there was some sort of non-legal addition of concrete at that point. And looking back through both Street View and through aerials, it appears as though it's been there since 2004.
At least.
Well, I guess my question was more is if they hadn't busted out that section on the side and just replaced the piece that they needed to repair the foundation, would we be here?
We wouldn't be here right now if that 1 foot was not put back in, yes?
Or if they hadn't busted it out in the first.
If they hadn't busted in the first place, correct, yes. If it wasn't busted in the first place and it was simply a driveway that had existed, correct, we would not be here.
Yeah. So, I don't suppose we've got like a de minimis area of impacted land for the Board of Appeals here, because this has got to be the smallest chunk of dispute that we've had to face. All right, any other questions for John? For staff?
I do have one.
Go ahead.
When this was inspected, was there anything that was said about the contractors making that mistake to replace that, which was outside the permit?
Yeah, reading back through this, I don't know if this was a mistake necessarily by the contractor. I don't know when the exact pour happened, but as you can tell through the forms, this was placed up to be put, yes, and they were moved to put back, by whom, I do not know, but they were moved at some point to be placed back into alignment with the pre-existing conditions.
Well, but there's a seam there too, isn't there, on the new stuff?
Yeah, the new photo, I could see.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it was poured
Yeah.
with those forms and then probably another pour for the separate slab. But, okay, I don't know that changes much, but, all right, any other questions for your staff? All right, let's hear from the petitioner, Christine Allen, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Hi, welcome.
Hi.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes.
Okay, great. Tell us about the reason for this request from your perspective and why we ought to grant it.
The reason for the request is that without that there, it's either going to be dirt, gravel, which causes pebbles to go into the neighbors, which we already have disputes with the neighbors on numerous occasions. So having stones go into their yard is just going to exacerbate the issue. Also, I have knee issues, so getting in and out of my car, I want my door to be open, and if I'm going to be getting down, I would constantly be going in that area, so I'm not going to be able to get grass to grow there. So is the city going to come back after me because I've got dirt there? Or I'm driving on it because I'm backing my car up on it, and then I'm making divots into that area? I just wanted it to stay in conform with the rest of the driveway, so that I had one continuous level and piece, rather than, pothole down the driveway type thing. So, and it's been there since before I bought the house, and that was back in '94. And my house is like 100 years old.
Questions for our petitioner?
When you said you wouldn't be able to get grass to grow there, can you, I guess, explain that a little bit more? Do you not allow something?
If I put something in that area, I'm going to be constantly walking on it or driving on that area, depending on how I drive into the driveway. You know, if I back up, my wheels are going to be on that way because I'm going to be parked as close to the property line as possible, so when I open up my door, I can get out without bumping my door against my house, considering the kind of car I have. And I sometimes have difficulty walking because I have no cartilage in my knees. So, and I've had a knee replacement, so it's sometimes difficult for me to get in and out of a vehicle. So, I know I'm constantly on that strip in one form or fashion, either by driving on it or by walking on it. Or even taking my trash cans back and forth, I'm running down that area with my recycle and trash bins. So I can't see grass growing in that area.
Were you aware when you had the foundation repairs done on the driver report, that the plan from the city did not allow you to replace that section?
No, and I don't know if there was a miscommunication because I wasn't sure who was supposed to get the permits for the concrete going there. And so it was kind of like an after the fact that I found that out. And that's why I'm here today. Otherwise, I might have been here before it even occurred. Or like you said, never had it taken out to begin with.
I see a garage back there. Do you not use the garage for parking in?
No, I can't use the garage for parking in because my son has 2 vehicles in there that he's putting together.
Have you spoken to your contractor about this, why he took that action? Did you authorize that action?
I had wanted the whole section replaced, and I guess at the time when they did it, like you said, they moved the forms up because of a complaint and only concreted that one area. And then somebody else put in the rest of it. But it wasn't the
You
contractor.
ordered someone else to put in the other strip?
No, my son put it in. Because again, you've got that driving in.
Other questions? All right, we're going to deliberate for a moment and also hear from John.
So in your packet, you did receive a letter from Ellen Moran, who's a neighbor on 13th Avenue. Additionally, there are members of the audience here who wish to speak on this item.
Okay. If there are other people who wish to speak, please approach. Tell us your name and address.
My name is John Yankee. My address is 319 14th Avenue.
You can move the camera down so we can have it in front of you.
Okay. I can move over there.
John, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes. So, interested in you regarding the variance request from Christine Allen. My name is John Yankee. My wife and I, we are Northern Architect homeowners at 319 14th Avenue. Our property adjoins the driveway. Variance is being requested for. The non-compliant 1-foot section, if she's allowed to have it up to there, places that 6 foot 5 inches from the foundation of my house. Because of the concrete being poured up right up to the property line, and I understand that this existed before, but I have had increased issues and consistent issues with moisture in my basement along that wall. And so that's why ordinances like this exist, to keep that away, so that way your neighbor isn't mitigating the water from your property. And then this, and how it relates, so as was shown in there, the forms were originally put for the full width, and then when I pointed out to the contractor that you moved it, you removed it, now you can't, it has to go within compliance, and then he put it back within compliance. And then, but even up to that, even when they poured that, in order to have it go right to the lot line, they dug up the edge of my property to place the forms without ever talking to me or giving, or asking my permission. And there's piles of dirt still on my lawn from where the forms were dug up and placed. And as soon as I noticed the forms, I immediately contacted the contractor doing the work, informed them of the code. The contractor checked, confirmed that I was correct, that he had the building code. And to the contractor's credit, he moved back, reported. And I also learned from later email communication, which I've submitted to John, there was email communication over a year of me contacting the inspectors back and forth. My understanding is the homeowner was informed immediately that this was not within compliance. She didn't request variance at that point. That was back April 17th, a year ago. And then the following week, her son quick placed the forms, mixed bags of concrete from wherever, the local store, and poured it himself there. And I told him at the time, this is not compliant, you can't do this, and he did it all also. And I have included the full email chain of the last year back and forth, and the numerous times, according to my understanding, that she was told to come within compliance. And that wasn't done until recently when there was a municipal citation given, that finally triggered her requesting this variance here. So there's a couple reasons why I don't want this. It's not, it really is an issue with the water coming from that side and the moisture and a place for it to drain. And also during the winter with snow removal. I'll pass this around at the end. There's a picture when they shovel the snow all the way off the concrete, they shovel the snow onto my property. This is a smaller storm where it shows, but throughout the year, that snow is piled all up on my property because she doesn't have a place to place it on hers. And you can see, even from the picture that he had shown of it, there's room to get around that. And the rule is 8 feet, and based off the old measurement, she has 9, possibly 10 without that section. So she has more than enough to be in compliance. And I agree that it goes back before I was there, but I couldn't do anything about that. But once it was redone, then that opens it up. And so, and part of the reason I know this issue has come up, previously she had re-poured, about 15 years ago, she re-poured the section from her house over to the property line and back to the garage. Before that, it was pitched so it drained into her yard. When she redid it, she changed the pitch so it all drained into my yard. From that point forward, I've had wet backyard in that area since then. And at the time, because I didn't say anything before the forms were, I was told by an inspector and different people, well, we're not going to make them pull out concrete that exists. It's already poured, it's too late, and I just had to deal with it. That's why this time, as soon as I noticed the forms go up, I said something, this isn't compliant. And had I known that, I would have fought the previous section. And like, as you see, that wasn't the original width of the driveway. And when this house was built, cars were much wider. It was built for that. And then the other thing that, like I said, in there, it talks about that added section. It says you have to have 8 feet. She has more than 8 feet without the section. So it's well within compliance. And so I don't think that someone should be able to get away with keeping a wider driveway by simply only replacing 500 square feet at a time, so it's not that big a deal. That shouldn't allow people to work around to an ordinance. So that's sort of, and there are plenty of permeable options to have that space to use to drive on that are water permeable, that would allow drainage that I need, and her a surface to get in and out of the car. But right now, there's room where her son can drive the motorcycle around it when it's down. So there's plenty of space. And all these lots are narrow. That's just, like I said, her desire for a wider than code driveway doesn't mean that I should have to mitigate water from her route.
Thank you. Questions?
Oh, and then, like I said, and as you all noted, that the contractor did do it correctly, and that it was with knowledge that they needed a variance, illegally poured the second section. And at that point, had full knowledge that what they were doing was wrong.
Thank you. Any questions for this witness? All right, thank you. I may take a seat.
My wife had wanted to speak as well.
Please state your name and address.
Leah Yankee, 319 14th Avenue.
Leanne, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
It's Leah.
I'm sorry?
Leah,
Leah, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
Go ahead.
This application wasn't made until after a year when the concrete was poured, so no permission was granted, and our rights were never considered. The contractor refused to pour it. Her kid came over and poured a bag of bag mix and did it himself. The driveway is already wide enough to drive a car to the driveway area in front of the garage and to the huge garage she has. She could use the garage. Her son lives in Luxembourg. By allowing this to be concrete, it takes away the water absorbency that's directing all the driveway water onto our side yard, causing water in our basement. As it is, she shovels all her snow onto our side yard from her driveway. I don't feel that this is a compliant area, because what happens next time? Another 500 square feet, another 500 square feet, and we're right back to where we are. It's not fair to us as homeowners. It's really encroaching and marring our enjoyment of our house.
Thank you. Any questions for this witness? No. Thank you. May I take a seat? Is there anybody else who wishes to speak regarding this matter?
I believe there's someone on Zoom.
Is there anyone who wishes to speak regarding this matter?
No, so I think he's here for that.
I'm sorry, Stephen, I could not hear that.
I'm sorry, he shook his head no. I don't know if you saw that.
All right. Thank you. We'll deliberate and make our decision. Members, thoughts?
I see it as there's adequate room to be compliant within the driveway guidelines. As noted, there's more than adequate space. Some of the complaints seem to be more of inconvenience than anything else. I have a hard time meeting any of the objectives.
Yeah, from my perspective, I think the hardest one here is the hardship piece. Among others, I don't disagree with you, Corey, but I think this is very clearly self-imposed, especially when we consider that the contractor appeared to have done this right, and knowing that it wasn't supposed to have been poured there without a permit or variance, these folks went and took matters into their own hands. So I'm not able to get there on any of these.
Stephen, thoughts?
No, I'm largely in agreement with my other board members. I can't justify this, considering it was willfully poured after the contractor did it just to go it. I sympathize with the narrowness of the driveway, but this is, I can't get through reservation of intent, I can't get through exceptional circumstances, property rights, there's detriment, and this is a self-imposed problem.
This is Josh. With permission, I would move to deny the variance. Sorry, Steve.
Second.
I've got a motion from Josh and a second from Stephen to deny the variance request. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Sorry, your variance request has been denied.
Sorry to cut you off.
It's all right. All right, on to Appeal 24-10, consideration with possible action on a variance request from Todd Carey of TAC Rentals LLC, applicant and property owner, requesting to exceed side yard buffer setback requirements and on-site parking bulk requirements for I don't know what a 3-4 unit building is.
A 3 or 4 unit building.
A 3 to 4?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's an indeterminate size at this moment. Unit building at 900 Eastman Avenue, and this is in District 7. So, is Todd here?
Yep.
Feel free to join us, Todd. We're going to start with a couple of other things before we get to you, but sit tight. Members of the board, can you confirm these two statements? I do not have a conflict of interest in this matter.
I confirm.
Confirm.
I confirm.
Just face it to you.
I have not received any communication from any person or party about this matter.
I confirm.
Confirm.
I confirm.
I confirm. All right, and then hearing from staff first, John, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
Please proceed.
So 3 to 4 unit buildings have its own special categorization. It's not quite a normal multifamily, but.
Oh, it's not an indeterminate use.
It's 3 to 4 units is its own individual
Okay.
users. So we have single families, we have 2 families, and in that context, that has its own separate parking features. When you get to 3 and 4 units, and then finally just typical multifamily, you're into multifamily / commercial parking categorization. So that has a whole different lens of looking at how parking lots are laid out compared to a typical 1 or 2 story home, or sorry, 2 unit home. So with this one, we actually have 5 different parts of the code to consider here. Because we need to look at it through the lens of being a 3 or 4 unit building. So we have to look at what that part of the code tells us how to make parking lots. So I'll go through each one of these setbacks. 44-1744, sub B, sub 1. Parking area shall be set back as established from the zoning district for which it is the property itself is situated. This is an R3 district. This comes into play with how we're going to review this overall case. 44-1774, sub F. Access. Each off-street parking stall shall open directly upon a drive aisle or driveway that is wide enough to provide a safe and efficient means of access without directly maneuvering a vehicle into any pedestrian way or public right-of-way. Simply put, you can't back a car out into a street or an alley. You have to have your car facing forward like you would if you're leaving a typical commercial establishment. You wouldn't back out onto, say, Main Street. You'd have to pull forward and make a normal left or right-hand turn on and in traffic. Driveway throttling. If you have a 3 or 4 unit building or a commercial or multifamily building, you need to have a driveway throat. Driveway throttling has to be 18 feet for access. Landscape and screening, you have to meet the requirements of sections 1964 through 1969. The reason for that is that this goes with the code of multifamily, so you have to have the particular buffer screening for a parking lot. And with that in mind, for properties that are multifamily, the buffer has to be at least 20 feet wide, 25 feet wide, which is the case in this situation, if your building is more than 2 stories. So if you have a parking lot, you have to have a 25-foot buffer from that neighboring residential facility off to the next door to you, if you happen to have that, which that's the case here. So, looking at this lot, it's a small lot. It is an R3 zone lot with a building that was 4 units, which the applicant is taking down to 3 units, so they're lowering it in intensity. But it is not so intensive as a 2 unit. In R3, this is a permitted use to have 3 or 4 unit buildings. So are multifamily buildings. In theory, you could have a 20 unit building on this tiny lot. You wouldn't meet any of the standards, but you could have that on this. So if you have a 3 or 4 unit building,
Please. Excuse me, if you're going to have a conversation, take it out in the hall until we get to your item, please. Thank you.
so if you're having a 3 or 4 unit building, you have to then have your parking situation be that it comes into where it looks like you're going to a commercial facility. What would that entail? On this image right here, essentially, if you had enough space, you'd have to have a throat, and then you have to have parking stalls, and it would have to be set back far enough from the property line that you're 25 feet away from it. I'm going to note, as far as this permitted use to where he's lowering the intensity from a 4 to a 3 unit building, There's no physical way to possibly do that on this property. I tried to find ways to make that happen to where you reach all the different parts of the code where you would not be applying, say, setbacks or things of that sort. It is not possible on a property that is nearly 55 feet in width. Keep in mind, on a typical single family, that's a narrow lot. We're still doing normal narrow lot issues where you can be 1 foot from a property line. Because this is a 3 or 4 unit building, by code, they have to be 25 feet from a property line. And that would mean that your parking space would have to be now 30, you'd have 30 feet of space to deal with both a parking stall, parking aisle, and your typical 15-foot setback from the sidewalk. It's just not possible to put parking in on this site. So, what is he proposing? This is an image of the site from the alleyway. You can see the existing legal non-conforming for what's there, so they're going from a 4 to a 3. And this garage and the parking, even though it does not meet requirements, was grandfathered legally, it can work. But he wants to make additional parking with that, it has to come with the code, and it just isn't there. So, changing from being 4 units down to 3 units, and he would like to keep the garage that exists and make improvements to what is a gravel driveway and turn that into a paved driveway. This is the site plan that has been submitted. Excuse me. So what the applicant is trying to do with this new 3-unit home is to use the garage to have as a garage space and a tandem space, a second garage space, a second tandem space, and then utilizing the alley itself, 2 parking stalls, 10 by 20 feet wide, behind the garage itself. I want to note, if this was a duplex, everything you're seeing right here, we wouldn't be talking. This all, in the context of a duplex, works, and works really well. But it's not, it's 3 units. So with that in mind, a 3-unit building has to have the following. It has to have 3 stalls for the 3 units, plus 1 visitor stall. So you have to have 4 legal parking stalls. Because this is, if we're looking at this through the lens of a typical apartment complex, the parking stalls for the garage, with it being a tandem stall, the garage and the stall outside the garage is 1 stall. The second garage stall and the stall outside of it is 2 stalls. Why? You should not have a situation where somebody living in unit A happens at the garage stall and somebody in unit B has the parking stall outside of it and having to deal with the back and forth and that. So you have 1 stall plus the second stall in the garage / driveway area. Off the alley, he's looking to put a 3rd and 4th stall. That would then get to your requirements for a 3-unit building in off the alley.
And that's just a parking pad, not a
That's a
garage.
parking pad, yes. Which, if this was a duplex, totally acceptable because it's behind the front plane of where the garage is at, back over here. So it's not in the front yard setback, and it's set behind where the neighbor back to the south, where their property is. It's set back behind there too. So totally acceptable in the lens of a duplex. In addition, the applicant has noted because of the issues with that the setback could not be in place here with a 25-foot setback between a 3 or 4 unit building compared to your neighboring residential property. He's looking to make a 6-foot tall solid fence along the property line from the near the alley back to the back, along the property line back to the north, to the back of the house, as well as the sidewalk that would lead to the back of the house for the people who are using the 2 parking stalls in the back, as well as some lighting then for those people who are using said sidewalk to the back. So there's no way to make that 25-foot barrier, but the code would require a 4-foot tall barrier that would have to be either of a fence, landscaping, berming, some combination thereof. He's looking to put it to the max height it can be, which is 6 feet in the district. So he's looking to make that concession with this. So the issue we have here is we have 5 different parts to look at this, but it's because, mind you, we are looking through the lens that this happens to be a 3 to 4 unit building, which then goes into the commercial code. If this happened to be a 2-unit building, say 2 unit plus 1, we'd be on to our next item right now. So he's looking at this driveway setup through the physical lens of it being a duplex setup with the house that's been existing for years in that site. And keep in mind, he's reducing the actual intensity of the building from being a 4-unit down to a 3-unit on the site. So there are some pictures in your packet itself showing some of the renovations he may have to where the upper units turn from being 2 units down to 1.
Questions for staff? Corey, go
I have
ahead.
one. In the context of us looking at this, where it's preferable to decide that it would fit more in the duplex guidelines, are we able to grant a variance related to this whole parcel in perpetuity to treat it as a duplex? And apply those rules?
No, because I apologize, but I'll cut you off there. The reason why that's a no is that's a change of use. So the use itself right now is a 3 to 4 unit building. The duplex is a separate, look at that as being, what else could maybe a laundromat. It's the same guise as whether it be 2 units or a laundromat or something else. The 3 to 4 has its own standards for use, and this board does not take into account uses, only physical standards. Because if it's a use, that would go on to being a plan commission action through a rezone. It wouldn't come to this board. Which is why you're looking at 5 different parts of the code here, not just one. I get it, one would be easier. I'd rather do it that way, but this is the way we have to go about it for a situation like this.
Well, a question, if he just leaves the driveway gravel, doesn't pour into the parking spots, he can just reduce it to a tree, or is he still required to make changes to the rest of the lot?
Right, he could leave the way he has it right now as a legal non-conforming, where you have a gravel driveway and just 2 stalls, and keep it that way because the existing legal nonconformities was that this place is a 4-unit property and it happened to have that many stalls. He's looking to make improvements on the property, and with that, we have to get into compliance. Yeah.
That's why I was asking, is moving from 4 to 3, does that trigger this? Or is it the fact that he wants to make improvements on?
It's the improvements part of it, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? John, is this plan as has been presented to strike you as the best possible solution given the constraints on the site?
Staff has looked at this quite a bit for a small property like this. Yes. We've tried to find ways to make this work. And we think as far as, one, meeting the standards with a 3-unit property. With a 3-unit property, you need to have 4 parking stalls. And this would actually get it to compliance in that regard. And the context of the physical nature of this lot to what it looks like in comparison to the neighborhood, that yes, this would work. When talking with Mr. Carey here in the past, is there a way to maybe spend upwards of 7 figures to make a platform fitness structure on this property? Possibly, you could. I don't see it happening here or really anywhere in the city to make some of that situation work, but yes, staff felt that the way things were aligned here, that this is the best case scenario for trying to achieve improvements in the property and getting to the code standard for minimum amount of stalls on the site, which is 4. And not exceeding either, not trying to ask for 5 or 6 stalls,
Right.
but simply asking for the 2 that would get into compliance.
And then just one other question, because it may be relevant as we're looking at the buffer between the 2 lots. What is that use on the adjacent parcel that looks like it's straddling 2 lots and has a through lane and
Yeah, that's
buildings?
residential as well. And
It's residential.
It's residential, it is on another foible, like how did this happen over the course of time, where you have a driveway going over 2 lots? It's owned by the same owner. If they were to come in and ask for some improvements, that's where we would say, combine these lots. Yeah.
All right. Any other questions for staff? All right, now to petitioner Todd Carey. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth?
Yes.
Okay, great. Tell us a little bit more about why we should grant your request.
So, 4 years ago, I bought this property and another one on Broadway. And I've only been remodeling it since. So I had 4 one-bedroom apartments, and one guy was a hoarder, he had a bike, and the other 2, they didn't have cars. So I never had to deal with this issue. So then I evicted the people on the top apartments. So then I took 2 one-bedrooms and made it into a brand-new 3-bedroom, 1,200 square feet. Redid everything inside, gutted it. I got a building permit, obviously. And then, so then I'm like, oh my God, I don't got no parking for this upper unit. So then I started to, I got a hold of my excavator, and then we got a plan, and then I site plan, and then I got the blacktop estimate, and then I met John, and I didn't know that I was gonna have to go through all this just to get more parking, because I didn't know exactly how it works. Construction I know a lot about, but parking I did not have a clue. So I am gonna take that corner lot. I'm already, like, the garage doesn't look like that. I am totally stucco, we're siding it, new garage doors. Gonna come in off that alley, the 2 will park there. We're gonna have a sidewalk in the back of the garage, got 2 dusk to dawn disc lights, so that, and then there'll be a fence coming down that side, so they'll feel very secure. And then you walk right up to that back step and you go upstairs. So, like, I got 70 grand into that upper apartment right now, and I gotta spend another 14 to do this project. So, I can't rent it without this variance, and I need it desperately. So, that's all I got.
So, good. My one question was going to be physically where the sidewalk was going to go. So you're going to run the sidewalk
Right
around
off
the
the
fence line,
end of it,
basically? and-
straight on the back side of
Back
that
of the
garage, so
garage,
they're gonna feel secure at night,
Mhm.
it'll be lit up. And plus that fence is gonna separate that other
From that
corner
neighborhood.
lot. And I'm trying to, trying to enhance the neighborhood at the same time. I'm making my property look better and, the property around it. And I know a guy just on, block away on Webster, he just put a new parking lot, because he had the same issue with her, because he redid the whole property too. So, I'm hoping that I get it granted. Thanks.
Yeah, no, and just certainly need the reinvestment in some of the housing in that neighborhood, so it's great to see it. All right, questions for the petitioner? No questions. It looks, and I gotta say, thank you for a clear presentation and understanding of what we need to do here. We just have a lot of different pieces parts in here with regard to all of these elements that are just not able to be met in a lot of ways because of the size of the lot itself. And I'm assuming this is a single-family home chopped up at some point into a 4, and now you're deconverting to a 3.
Yeah.
But, all right. Members of the board, any thoughts on the criteria that we need to evaluate with regard to this request?
Do we need to speak to each individual one, apply each one, or are we able to group them?
If you have the arguments, that they can, potentially arguments can be placed on each individual one of these items to where you might say the same argument applies for multiple individual ordinances.
So you should go through the
Go over them
elements.
separately?
Yes, go through the elements on each of them separately, but for example, once you do the elements for the first one, when you move to the second one, if any of the elements are the same, you can just say these 3 elements are the same as they were for the first one. Hypothetically.
Well, this is a mess, but I'll give it a first shot. I think as far as preservation of intent, I don't think it's inconsistent. I mean, inconsistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the regulations. I think this is closer to a duplex type property that these types of setback issues would be consistent with than it would be with a commercial or multi-family units. So I don't think it's inconsistent, or I think that granting the variance would preserve the intent. I think we do have exceptional circumstances here. This is a 3 to 4 unit home or a rental building in a residential district that it doesn't fit in this district, doesn't necessarily fit in another district, but it's been used as this, it's had this use for decades, it seems. And frankly, I think that reducing the use is consistent with what's being asked for here. I think that, under the circumstances, the setback variance is necessary to preserve property rights. We've got a property owner here that is trying to do right, given the challenges that this lot and this particular building presents. I don't think that there's an absence of, I don't think there's a detriment here in granting the setback variance. There's fewer people using this house now than were when it was a 4-unit building, and we've got a property owner who's trying to make a go of this. And as far as hardship, I don't. Certainly, it's not self-imposed. Again, we've got a property owner that's it's reducing the use here rather than increasing the traffic at this unit. Frankly, I think those statements apply to all 5 of the requests from my perspective. This is under any circumstances, this would be an impossible thing to make happen on this lot with this number of units, and that sways me given the way that this property has been used for all these years.
Thanks, Josh. Any other input with regard to the criteria from other members?
Well, I think I can add a little bit around the landscaping screening requirements. I think that in terms of preservation of intent for 1774. I would also add there that the intent of that is to making sure that there's proper green space and that there's proper landscaping. I think that the applicant has done a good job of making sure that not only is that intent preserved there, but he's also actively went to remove detriment to the neighbor by putting up a fence to keep the site of that away from the neighbors. I think overall, looking at this in terms of detriment for both this and the other ones, this is a net improvement to the neighborhood. I think it should be noted that this property sits between a huge electrical substation and a railroad track. Improvements in this area and people who are willing to improve in this area, I think, are few and far between. And I think that what's being asked here is not out of bounds, nor is it without thought and consideration of the land.
Thanks, Stephen. Corey, do you have anything to add?
I was just going to speak to, I think, some of the 3 to 4 residential guidelines, multifamily homes there, related specifically to some of the parking area, driveway length, landscaping, screening, and perimeters are a lot more with safety of traffic, as well as getting on and off the street. I used to live generally in this area, and that one right off of Eastman, if they were backing off of Eastman, would probably be a little bit busier, but because the main driveways are off Van Buren as well as the alley, I don't see as much of a safety concern related to that. So I think with regard to the design, as far as what they're looking at to do, would be preserving their intent of the property as well as preserving the intent of the safety that those guidelines set.
Thanks, Corey. John, would you be able to go back to the different codes that we're touching on in this one here?
Sure.
Sure. So I'm going to try and just paraphrase what I heard from the members of the board here in talking about this, but applying to each of these sections in general here. So as we just noted, setbacks requires that, they match the district. And we're specifically saying that in this case, the width of the lot and some of the other characteristics of the property are not allowing us to go to the full setbacks as required by the ordinance, but that the development here seems to be mitigating that negative as much as possible, that we're preserving the intent of the code and not necessarily moving away from it. We know that there are multiple multifamily units in this neighborhood that have been trying to figure out parking since time immemorial, since the invention of the automobile probably. But that is that attempt, that the exceptional circumstances in this case really are the nature of the density of this property and its corner location, which I think is always a little bit more challenging than, say, an interior lot might be. And that it's really the desire to improve, in some respects, this property that's creating the need to create this compliance. Other investors in this neighborhood might just say, well, then I'll just let the residents figure out where they're going to park, because I can't do anything without triggering all the stuff that is impossible physically to do on this lot and still comply with the code. So, I think that's an exceptional circumstance in and of itself, that we've got an investor who's actually investing and wanting to make improvements, improve the quality of the residential structure, improve the quality of the parking, and improve the quality of this asset in the neighborhood. And they're unable to do so and comply. The rights of hey, we expect to be able to park when we rent the place. We expect to be able to have parking when we own a place. I don't think that there's anything untoward there. And that as many of our members have mentioned, the absence of detriment, we're actually improving the property if we allow this plan to move forward, as opposed to creating something of a hassle or a hazard. And certainly this is not an economic grounds or self-imposed hardship. In reality, it's trying to just do what's right, and struggling to do that because the code is a little rigorous. And I might note, under exceptional circumstances where we think about, well, and the variance is not so general in nature, to suggest that the ordinance might be changed, I would say that for the sake of small lot multis, single-family conversion multis, the 3 to 4 unit code isn't actually appropriate, and maybe that should be looked at and changed. But certainly for this, as staff has alluded, is the best pathway forward that they've seen in working with the developer. I think that the access, as we noted, for each parking space directly on a drive, not perfect. As you pointed out, Corey, about the Van Buren Street entrance as opposed to being on Eastman or a busier street in the neighborhood, probably makes it a little bit safer to back out there. I think that also the fact that, as staff told us earlier, both that garage space and that auto space behind that is really just kind of like a one. So we're not going to be having multiple tenants sharing, garage space and other things, which I think could make a little more risky in terms of backing out into the street. You knock on Fred's door and say, Fred, you got to move your car, I got to get to work, and everybody's hurrying and doing something that seems a little bit more hazardous. So it's probably a better approach to add those off the alleys. Driveway throat length, again, there's just no way to make that happen. It's almost, it's like 40% of the width of the parcel, just to get in to the parking area that is envisioned, and the change to that I think is not excluding any of these criteria. It's kind of the same thing as the setback requirements. And landscaping and screening, both landscaping and perimeter landscape buffers, I think are similar enough that the same arguments apply. Again, the variance is inconsistent with the fact that you need to screen from a neighbor. The petitioner's proposing of adequate screening of a 6-foot fence. I think, again, improvements, the pavement area for the cars, the sidewalk going up to the back of the garage and into the house, the lighting, those are all things that are appropriate, but they're also all screened from the immediate adjacent property by that fence. And again, can't have it be 20 feet wide just because there isn't enough there. And so, you know, the approaches that are being done here, I think are meeting all of our criteria, preserving the rights. Again, no detriment created, and the hardship in complying is certainly not self-imposed, other than, you know, you could say by wanting to make improvements, you're kind of making a self-imposed hardship, but not in the context of what this ordinance is all about. So it seems to me that the board has provided adequate satisfaction of the criteria here for granting a variance. Is there anybody who wants to make an action?
This is Josh.
Oh, John's got a comment before we start.
There's one thing I'd offer up, I'd say this is more for clarity for somebody looking at this 10 years in the future. To perhaps make a condition, which I didn't note, but just thinking here as discussions have happened, to note that this would grant 2 10 by 20 foot stalls off of the rear alley and improve the existing pavement area in front of an existing garage. That way we look back and go, oh, that's what this board was trying to go for. Because there's a lot of things happening with this to where if there was no plan right here to look at for some reason, we could look back into that part of the discussion and go, those are the 2 improvements that are being made to the property. As well as if we want to note the 6-foot tall fence as a buffer in the back as well.
Yeah, and I would say in the sidewalk between the parking area and the back of the house. So maybe member who makes the motion, if you're going to make a motion for approval, stipulate the pavement of the existing gravel driveway, pavement of the parking spaces off the alley, and the addition of the 6-foot fence and sidewalk to the back of the house, kind of as proposed in the drawing.
Yeah.
But the sidewalk wasn't shown in the drawing, so we want to make.
Understood, so that's added to it.
Yes.
Essentially, there'll have to still be the approved plan here by our typical site plan review, but we've been discussing this here now for months, and it's known that what's drawn here is what's going to be, as long as it's approved, will be what's accepted by staff.
I will, this is Josh, I'll make the motion to grant each of the variances as requested, but would also move that the variance have the conditions as just discussed, that the existing gravel driveway would be paved and improved, that the parking pad be paved and access provided off of the alleyway, that a sidewalk, that the 6-foot screening on the property line be constructed along with a sidewalk to access from the alley parking pad to the home, along with the appropriate lighting as discussed during our hearing today.
And that this decision is based on our findings of consistency with the criteria.
Oh, I thought I said that. Yes, absolutely.
This is Corey, I'll second.
Okay, we've got a motion from Josh and a second from Corey to approve the variance as requested. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carried. Get your variance.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Give us a harder one next time.
Go
Thanks,
fix up
John.
some more houses.
Appreciate it.
All right. Last but not least, Appeal 24-11, consideration with possible action on a variance request from Kendra Schaefer, applicant and property owner, requesting to exceed building setback requirements for side yard setback within a low-density district at 1132 13th Avenue. This is in District 9.
Hi.
Hi.
Sorry for the disturbance. I didn't know you guys called the neighbors, otherwise I would have spilled her in before the variance.
Oh, it's all right, thank you. It's just hard for me to hear sometimes, and I gotta have some quiet.
Sorry about that.
All right, it's not gonna affect our decision
Okay.
whatsoever.
I just didn't want to turn into those type of neighbors, and I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think that I should talk to her before
Right.
getting the variance.
Sure, okay, if you'll just sit tight, we'll be with you in a minute, but first, I need to ask the members of the board to confirm the following statements. I do not have a conflict of interest in this matter.
I confirm.
I confirm. I have not received any communication from any person or party about this matter.
I confirm.
I confirm.
I confirm.
All right. And as with the other items, we'll hear from staff first. So John, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
All right, please proceed.
What's at play here is 44-554, lot dimensions and bulk building requirements from table 44-2. Within an R1 low-density residential district, the building setback requirement is 6 feet for a side yard. That's for narrow lots, which this does fit, it's under 60 feet. So it can be 1 story, 2 stories, 2.5 stories, 6 feet or side yard setback. So this is a property over on 13th Avenue. You'll see the street itself and an alley in the back. This is a house along with a 2-stall garage. This is what's being proposed to the property. So going back here, this is oriented where this is the yellow part in the back, and they're looking to put an addition back this way in the same plane as that existing southern property wall. That southern property wall is about 2 feet or so off the property line. So this would be the addition. It shows 12 to 14 on there, on here. I think there might have been some changes from this plan to where it's about 13 by 15 with the overall length went in the future, but pretty similar. What's at stake here is that this line right here keeps on going. So if you have a building that was built in the past that's legal non-conforming grandfather, you can add on to the building. It's just that that addition has to be then outside of the setback. So if you were to build on for this this master bedroom and you happen to place it 4 more feet back towards the interior of the property, legal, no problem. The request is to place it in plane with that existing wall that happens to be into the side yard setback. This is what the property looks like. Approximately 2 feet or so from the property line. This is a neighboring property, also probably pretty close to not being quite in conformance itself. And so the addition is looking to go into the back of the property. Here is the driveway off the north side. This is looking now a few feet down the property line, looking back towards the street itself. So I would say probably where you're standing right here looks to be about where they'd like to put the corner of the house, the addition back here. So you see it in context with the neighboring house as far as where they're at with that right now. And then these are a few more shots of the house itself. So back looking at the back of the house, this is what it looks like between that detached garage and the back of the property. Another view here looking down the driveway, and then finally one more also down the driveway, a side view of the property itself. These are some architectural drawings as far as what they like to do for the addition to the property. Adding a typical bedroom placement there, but it just happens to be in the setback itself. I spoke with the petitioner on this as far as what you have as far as the options that could work, trying to achieve that goal. You know, in theory, could you move this over some more? Yes, you could. Now you have a garage, so there's some space to have to maneuver back this way. In theory, you could tear the garage down and utilize the alley in the back. You could do that. So that's a possibility. And in theory, rather than being the 14 to 50 feet wide, you shrink it down and it becomes more like about 10 feet wide for the bedroom itself. That's also possible that we're within the code. But the component here is just you're in the side yard setback and it's too close to it. 6 feet is the key.
All right, questions for staff? Do we have, can we see the aerial?
Yeah. This is a pretty good here. So yeah, you go back and you curve on into the garage as you go past the northwest corner of the home, back that way.
Okay. Any questions for staff? All right, we'll hear from the petitioner. Kendra, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth? All right. Tell us about what you're trying to do and why we should grant a variance.
So I am trying to make this house livable for the foreseeable future, which is trying to condense the master bedroom from the second story that we have onto the first floor, so there's no steps. And then eventually the bedroom right next to it will be a laundry room. And to make that bedroom in compliance, I'd like to add a closet so that it's actually a bedroom. I would like to continue that wall just to keep aesthetically, so it doesn't look like an addition onto that side. Also, with the size and having that closet, shrinking it makes it really hard to fit a queen size bed into there. And moving it over starts to impede on where we swing into the second stall. So I'd like to continue to keep using it as a 2-car garage instead of a 1-car garage. And pushing it over to that one side is kind of the best, also the most aesthetically kind of pleasing way to do that. And yes, that's why I'm asking for the variance today. And about the one neighbor, this is my neighbor to the driveway side. My other neighbor is 14 foot back, so we won't be impeding any of their views or restricting on any of their building is nowhere close to even the edge of mine. So it's 14 feet from corner to corner there. So they're set way back, so there won't be anything imposing there. I think I have, I sent you that line drawing one, kind of shows it.
What you had said, that it's all in the packet itself, but I was compressing it for the sake of
Yeah.
imagery on.
No problem. So yeah, the neighboring structure is set way back after the existing structure, so, and the driveway. Also, the contractor suggested keeping it as far away from the garage as possible for fire code. We're already gonna have to insulate that inside corner because it's going to be kind of close, but that opens us up to about 6-foot gap here. So that keeps it big enough to where you could fit like a lawnmower or something, or anything into the backyard from the front as well. And in regards to moving the garage, we would have the same issue with, if we wanted to rebuild the garage, we'd have to center it into the property because we are also very close to her property line as well. And so, yeah, it's just a narrow lot, so we're trying to squeeze it in there.
Okay. Questions for the petitioner? Anyone? Great. Other witnesses to speak? Do you have anything to say?
Well,
And please give us your name and address.
my name is Martha, and I'm from 1130 13th Avenue. But I'm surprised why I'm here because now that I'm seeing where she's gonna build it, I mean, I'm new. This is my first property that I buy. So I wonder why am I here? Because it has nothing to do with my property is so far away from.
Sure.
And I apologize, I didn't get a chance to talk to her. I wanted to see if I got the variance first before I talked to my neighbors, because it really hinges on the fact that I can get the variance.
Yeah, I think one of the things the city does when something's going to happen, they look at all the owners around it and they give them a notice that there's somebody making a request.
Yeah.
So that you've got the ability to say, this doesn't work for me, right? And, but you know, that's why you got the invitation to come.
Yeah.
So.
But it's good to know because I've been learning a lot, you know. I've been learning a lot, listening all that.
If you get a notice like that, you don't have to come, but you're always welcome.
Yeah, but honestly, it was mentioned and it says the municipality. I said, oh, where am I supposed to go? Because I never been here. So I thought it was gonna be at the court and say, well, I'm not gonna mess with that.
joining us today.
What do you think, Martha? I was gonna
I-
come talk to you about it, but
No,
I don't have to.
this I broke my knee and I hardly go out, you know, to, yeah.
All right, so thank you. We will deliberate and make a decision. Folks, any thoughts with regard to the 5 criteria? Corey, is that a raised hand?
Oh, sorry, on my iPad, I was looking for if the conditions came
Sure.
up on there.
Sure. John will put them up for us here.
There we go. Well, as far as, I'll speak to preservation of intent. I mean, it's a residential, I mean, everybody should be able to enjoy the property, preserve their enjoyment of it. Adding on a bedroom to this small home with that small of their parcel there, I think it's consistent with regard to enjoying what they have, and it's not out of place by any means. It's consistent with what is existing, so I don't have any issues there. Exceptional circumstances along the lines of that being a short parcel. They're trying to fit it in with regard to everything else, so I think it's meeting that one as well. Preservation of property rights to improve the property, seeing fit as what they wish to do. I think that is there. Absence of detriment, I don't think it's detrimental to the community at all. It probably will enhance it as well and also make it, for the future, a more desirable home in the neighborhood. I don't see it necessarily being a hardship from being necessarily self-imposed. They're stuck with regard to where they're at. So I think it's, I think they meet all of them.
Thanks, Corey. Does anybody disagree with Corey's assessment of the criteria?
Yeah, I think the proposal's very nice. I think it would look great. I'm having a hard time, though, on the exceptional circumstances. I'm not seeing anything particular to this lot that is different from other lots in the neighborhood. In fact, it sounds like the orientation of this home as pertains to the property line is actually pretty consistent with what other homes in the neighborhood have. So I'm not getting there on the exceptional circumstance piece.
I am. I'll just note that I think that when we have these narrow lots, I mean, an R1 district could have all sorts of different lots, some much larger that we wouldn't have these issues requiring variances or prompting variance requests. But I think in this case, both the narrowness of the lot and the placement of the existing garage argue for the solution that's being proposed here, as opposed to setting it over a couple of feet and making it narrower or moving the garage. I think those are kind of like a bridge too far sometimes in terms of what we're looking at. I think you can tell the petitioner assessed that because they're aware that they've got to do some fire retardant stuff in the walls. I don't know all the terms there, but I mean, they've got to be mindful of the fact that the garage could catch on fire, that it's kind of close, and so saying, hey, make it even closer to the garage, I think is pushing. We're pushing one concern to create another, and so for me, I think that this lot kind of meets that test of exceptional circumstance. But you can.
I would agree with that. I would also say that, we could get them in compliance with the addition for that particular code, but then we create, it doesn't move the rest of the house. I guess I see creating more problems by having it closer to the garage, and frankly, a less safe condition isn't worth, having the property line get in there, essentially use the space anyway. It just, from a practical standpoint, it doesn't seem to me like we're gaining anything by that, and that, to me, that makes the circumstance somewhat exceptional.
All right, well, there's one way to demonstrate your belief that we've met all the tests is by somebody making a motion on the request.
This is Corey, I'll move to approve the appeal.
Based on your understanding that we...
Well, based on the assessment and meeting all criteria.
Is there a second to that?
This is Steve, I second that.
Okay, we've got a motion by Corey and a second by Stephen to approve the variance as requested. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed?
Nay, sorry.
It's all right. Okay, the variance has been granted. Thank you. Thanks for the graph paper presentation too.
Very well put together.
You know, I'm a drafter, so
Nice.
I was like, I had to make sure. But we're getting new siding and new gutters too, so hopefully it'll make everything look a lot nicer.
Great,
Staying a long time.
great.
Because we have great neighbors, obviously.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
All right, informational. The date of our next meeting is May 20th, 2024. I have a conflict that's going to require me to be away from City Hall that day. So if we can get our, I'm assuming our vice chair will be available.
Presumably, yeah.
But I have a conflict with that meeting. And then we've got a proposed change of date for the June meeting. Is this pushing it back a week?
This is pushing it back a week. The reason why is we have a conflict. Plan Commission, which normally is never on this Monday, happens to be that month because of the Common Council doing a bit of a change with their calendar in June. So we have to push one of them, and PC is, or Common Council is dependent on Plan Commission's actions. So this one should get bumped. So June 24th is proposed meeting for that month.
Is there anybody who's got any thoughts or comments on either of those changes or on that change?
No problem with me.
Okay, let me just take a look at my calendar and see if that's an issue.
I don't see an issue with the 24th at the moment, but I may have an issue on May 20th, but can bridge that there.
Okay. Sounds good.
And let me just take a quick look here.
As you're looking, I'll be in touch then with everybody, since we are now coming to where we may have some issues with May 20th, to make sure we have enough to get to our quorum here for May 20th.
Yeah, the 24th of June should be fine.
Okay. So,
And then just one other note here, an informational, it's not really any sort of action, but I noticed that my parking permit's going to expire at the end of this month. I
Oh,
imagine that's
same
probably
thing.
true for all of us. So
all right.
We need new.
I'll be in touch with Terry and get you guys updated here.
Great.
Sounds good.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, this is Josh.
Thanks, Josh. There's
Please,
no-
second.
All right. All those in favor say bye.
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 We're adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
Recording stopped.